called type 1 and type 2 errors. You're going to read the second half of the chapter today where it talks about this, and you'll see this chart in there. So a type 1 error is when you reject the null hypothesis when in fact it happens to be true, so you shouldn't have. And a type 2 error is when you fail to reject the null hypothesis when you should have, because it's actually false. So if you look, depending on the situation will depend on which one's worse. So you can't always say a type 1 error is always worse, and you can't always say a type 2 error is worse. It really depends on the situation. So if you look, a type 1 error would be a healthy person diagnosed with a disease, and that would obviously be bad, but it would also be the same thing as an innocent person being convicted. So a healthy person being diagnosed as sick would definitely be a bummer because they would get treatment that they wouldn't need, but it might not be life-threatening. However, an innocent person being convicted, that would be really, really bad because someone who's completely innocent goes to jail. Now, a type 2 error with the same scenarios would be a sick person diagnosed disease-free. That would be horrible because that means someone who is sick is not getting the treatment they need. Or a guilty person not convicted. And let's be real, in this world, that happens all the time. So in both of those situations, I'm not sure what would be worse. In my opinion, with the disease, I think a type 2 error would be worse. I think it would be worse for someone who is sick to get diagnosed as healthy. But when it comes to convicting a person, I personally think a type 1 error is worse because I think it's way worse for an innocent person to go to jail than a guilty person to be set free. But again, that's just my opinion. It really depends on the situation. Okay, and then there is something called power, which you'll see on this slide, but that's really an AP topic that we don't need to worry about. So really what you just need to remember is that a type 1 error is rejecting the null when you shouldn't. And the first problem is done for you, and I wrote your definitions here. So it says, we are testing a new formula for rechargeable batteries that we believe can take more charges than the old formula. The null is that P is 0.75. So the old batteries, 75% of the new batteries can accept 500 charges or more. And the alternative is that more than 75% can. So a type 1 error would be to reject this and aka conclude this. So we conclude that more than 75% can accept 500 charges or more, when really that's not the case. So we're concluding that there is a difference between the old and new, when really there's no difference. A consequence of that error was we could be making false claims about the new battery being better. The company could also be wasting a lot of money producing this new battery that they think is better when really it's not. A type 2 error would be failing to reject this, so we do not conclude this, and when really this actually is true. So we fail to reject the claim that there's no difference. However, the new batteries are actually doing better. So this could lead to the company scratching the new formula when really it's actually doing better, and they should be putting them out. So as you can see, it's up to you to determine which one would be a more serious error. It also depends on who you are. Are you the consumer? Well, if you're the consumer, I would be more concerned with a type 1 error. You think you're buying something that's better when it's not. If I were the company, I'd be more concerned with the type 2 error because I'm getting rid of something that worked. So again, it depends on who you are in the situation. So let's look at the oil company. It says an oil company is surveying customer confidence in light of recent oil spills. So the null is that the current level of confidence is 85%, and the alternative is that customer confidence is actually lower than 85%. So type 1 error would be concluding, well, again, it would be rejecting this and basically saying this. So it would be concluding that customer confidence is decreasing, when really it isn't. Really, it isn't. So a possible consequence of that is, as the oil company, you might start freaking out and start putting a bunch of money into campaigns to raise customer confidence when really the customer's opinion of you is not changing. So company might spend money on a campaign to raise money when they don't need to. And really, any type of like reasonable explanation here will work. Wow, my handwriting's terrible. Thank goodness I'm only a math teacher, huh? Oh well. So a type 2 error would be failing to reject this when really this is true. So this would be concluding confidence is not decreasing, basically. So really they failed to reject this. So as the company, people are having less and less confidence in you, and you think everything's okay. That's a problem. So the company can continue what they're doing and lose business. So again, it depends on who you are in this case as to which error you think is worse. Okay, so that is what you're going to do for the rest of this worksheet. You're going to tell me what a type 1 error is and a type 2 error, and then you're going to come up with some type of consequence of the error. Now, usually, saying it's a waste of money and time is normally a good consequence. The only thing is I want you to explain that a little more. So notice in this one, I didn't just say it's a waste of money and time. I said it's a waste of money and time because the company might start a campaign to help raise customer confidence. This would probably be a waste of money also because they'd be losing business. You gotta give me more than just waste of money. All right. So go ahead and try numbers 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Now, 5, 6, and 7, you're also going to just write what the null and alternative hypotheses are in symbols. So, for instance, for number 5, I'm just going to help you with the symbols. You're going to do the rest. It says the town will build a new community center only if over 25% of senior citizens say they will use it. So the null is just equals 0.25. Because remember, the null is always equals something. And the alternative is the claim, so that P is greater than 0.25. So that's what I mean when writing in symbols and numbers. And then go ahead and give me a type 1 and type 2 error and explain a possible consequence.